A little while ago, I got a very lovely comment under one of my videos. No, that is not a rarity. In fact, most of your comments are very lovely and very thoughtful. I truly feel we have created the best community here on YouTube, and your kind and thoughtful comments and engagement mean the world to me. I hope you know how much I appreciate every single one of you. The reason I'm mentioning this particular comment is that, first of all, the subscriber who left the comment had some questions for me she wanted me to address in a video. Secondly, it was by a younger subscriber, a woman in her early 20s. I actually took a screenshot of this comment, but in a frenzy to clean up my phone, I accidentally deleted it. However, I do remember most of the comment. So first of all, the subscriber said some very nice things. And then she asked me what advice would I give her regarding skincare as well as physical and emotional well-being. She went on to say that 15, 20 years from now, she would like to congratulate herself for making good choices for herself. And I loved that part. I wish I would have had the foresight in my 20s to take good care of myself. Now, every once in a while, I do get asked by younger subscribers to give them skincare advice, which I'm always humbled by. So let's start with skincare. But before I do so, please know that I'm not an expert on any of the things I am going to be talking about. I'm just looking at this as what advice would I like to give my younger self regarding, again, skincare as well as physical and emotional well-being. By the way, when thinking about this video and thinking about what advice would I like to give my younger self, I realized that each advice I would like to give my younger self could be a video on its own. Because looking back, like probably many of us, there are quite a few things I wish I would have done differently. However, I don't want this video to be forever long, so I'm just going to focus on the most important advice I would give my younger self. And I will try to be as concise as possible. So the first skincare advice I would give my younger self has nothing to do with topical skincare. But you've heard me say this over and over on this channel. I truly believe that what we put into our body is more important than what we put onto our skin when it comes to healthy skin. So the first skincare advice, and probably the most important skincare advice I would give my younger self, would be to nourish my skin from the inside out. To feed my body all the nutrients it needs to be able to produce healthy skin. So all the amino acids and cofactors it needs to produce collagen, the essential fatty acids it needs to prevent inflammation, and so on. Sadly, I did not do that. As many of you know, I was anorexic for almost 2 decades. So not only did I neglect to feed my skin the nutrients it needed, but my body in general. However, luckily, lots of the damage we do to ourselves when we are younger can be reversed. But it is nice to not have to reverse it in the first place. And of course, my story is an extreme. But I do think many of us have gotten away from looking at food as what it is, nourishment, for our body as well as our skin. Our skin, just like our liver, heart, and kidneys, is an organ that needs to be nourished. And as I just mentioned, I do believe many of us have gotten away from looking at food as nourishment, and we choose foods that lack nutrition and then wonder why we don't feel good and why we have skin issues. So that would probably be the most important skincare advice I would give my younger self, is to nourish my skin from the inside out. To not worry about the calorie content of a certain food, which is what I used to obsess over, but to worry about what nutrients does this food provide for my body as well as my skin. And then the second skincare advice I would give my younger self, for sure, would be to use sunscreen. I used to be a sun worshipper, and I can really see the damage now. Now, I did grow up in Germany, and luckily in Germany throughout the year, we don't get that much sun. But when I moved to Los Angeles at age 22, I surely made up for that. I used to bake myself in the sun, and like I said, I can really see the damage now. Now, of course, we need some sunlight exposure for vitamin D production and also for blue light stimulation to regulate our circadian rhythm. However, up to 90% of visible skin aging is from UV radiation. And even if we don't care about visible skin aging, we know that the sun can cause skin cancer. Now, I don't think in our early 20s we need an elaborate skincare routine. Washing our face, a moisturizer, and sunscreen, in my opinion, is all that's needed. Sadly, I can't even remember washing my face, let alone using skincare, and of course not sunscreen, when I was in my 20s. So on top of telling my younger self to do those things, I would tell her to, at some point, maybe in her mid to late 20s, start incorporating a vitamin C serum. Because vitamin C, especially internally, but to some extent also externally, is crucial for collagen production. And sadly, our collagen production starts to decline as early as our late 20s. Not only is vitamin C crucial for collagen production, but vitamin C used topically can also help boost the efficacy of our sunscreen. And then the last skincare product I would tell my younger self to, at some point, incorporate into her routine, maybe in her early to mid 30s, would be a form of retinoid. Now, of course, we know that prescription retinoic acid, or tretinoin, is known as the gold standard in anti-aging. But even over-the-counter retinoids have shown to be quite effective as far as increasing cell turnover, increasing epidermal thickness, helping to reduce fine lines and wrinkles, and even helping to prevent and treat certain skin cancers. Personally, I did start using a prescription retinoic acid about 6 years ago, and it has made a huge difference in the health and appearance of my skin. But as I just mentioned, even over-the-counter retinoids can be quite effective. And they can be a great alternative for those who can't tolerate prescription retinoic acid. And then the last skincare advice I would give my younger self, again, has nothing to do with topical skincare. But it would be that if any sort of skin condition arises, rosacea, dermatitis, or any other skin condition. For example, I developed really bad rosacea when I was in my early 30s. So if any sort of skin condition arises, to try to figure out what caused this condition in the first place. Is it stress-related, diet-related? And then to work on the cause and not just to cover up the symptom. So when I was diagnosed with my rosacea, the treatment was supposed to be antibiotics for life, which was not acceptable to me. So I had to do quite a bit of research, and I had to take a good look at my lifestyle. I had to learn stress management, and I had to change my diet. I also had some IPL treatments, which really helped my rosacea. But I don't think these treatments would have been as effective would I not also have addressed my lifestyle. So this is the skincare advice I would give my younger self. I would love to know what skincare advice would you give your younger self. Please share down below. Now, as I mentioned earlier, every once in a while I do get asked by younger subscribers to give them skincare advice, which I'm always humbled by. But what I love about this particular comment is the inclusion of the physical as well as emotional well-being, which are two things we don't often think about when we are in our 20s, especially the physical well-being, because when we are young, we think we are invincible and we don't give our physical longevity much thought. But this is again where this video could be forever long, because again, looking back, there are many things I wish I would have done differently. But when thinking about those things, I realized that almost all of the things I wish I would have done differently have one common underlying thread. And that common underlying thread is that deep down, I did not believe I was enough. And therefore, I did not believe I was lovable. So the number one advice I would give my younger self regarding physical and emotional well-being, because really I don't think we can necessarily separate physical from emotional well-being, because often our physical well-being will affect our emotional well-being and vice versa. So the number one advice I would give my younger self regarding physical and emotional well-being, as cheesy and cliche as it may sound, is to learn to love myself. The relationship we have with ourselves is the most important relationship we will have in our life. For better or for worse, we are stuck with ourselves 24 hours a day. So if we don't like the person we are, it can be quite lonely. And we are always going to try to get away from ourselves, distracting ourselves with all kinds of things we deep down know aren't good for us, allowing people into our life who don't deserve us, and making the wrong choices. Now, for me personally, the path of learning to love myself was not an easy one, and it is an ongoing process. But once I got on that path, I started making better choices for myself. I started eating better. I stopped over-exercising, which is what I was doing when I was anorexic. I got rid of people in my life who didn't deserve me, and so on. So I truly believe one of the most important things we can do regarding our physical and emotional well-being is to get to know the person we are and to learn to love that person. Now, the next advice I would give my younger self regarding physical and emotional well-being is actually advice I'm borrowing from Peter Attia, a well-known longevity expert who advises to think of 10 things we would like to be able to do when we are 100 years old. He has coined this the centenarian decathlon, which I love. Now, it might seem a bit far-fetched when we are in our 20s, or even 30s, 40s, and 50s, to think about 10 things we would like to be able to do when we are 100 years old. But I do think it is not just a fun, but important concept. Because while, of course, all of us want to live long lives, I don't think any of us want to spend the last couple of decades of our life battling some sort of disease. Which is why it is important to not just think about lifespan, but health span. And to think about, what do I want my life to look like when I'm older, and if I'm lucky enough to get to 100 years of age. And these 10 things can be simple things, such as being able to carry my own groceries, being able to go up a flight of stairs without thinking about it, being able to go for a 1-mile walk, and so on. I am definitely going to write down the 10 things I would like to be able to do if I'm lucky enough to get to 100 years of age, and maybe you want to do the same. But along those lines, I would tell my younger self to start lifting weights early on, because we are learning more and more about the importance of muscle mass, especially as we are getting older. But sadly, sarcopenia, or the age-related loss of muscle mass, starts as early as our 30s. However, by lifting weights early on, and of course continuing to do so, we can assure that when we are older, we have some healthy muscle mass. And then the last advice I would give my younger self regarding physical and emotional well-being would be that if there are any unresolved emotional issues, any trauma I haven't dealt with, to deal with it, because it is not going to go away. And often we don't realize until we finally deal with these issues how much they affected every aspect of our life. Now, of course, it is not easy to deal with trauma, but what has helped me in the past is to remind myself that I've already survived it, and that by allowing myself to deal with it and to heal it, I'm ultimately allowing myself to live a more fulfilling life. So this is the advice I would give my younger self, again regarding skincare as well as physical and emotional well-being. Unfortunately, I don't remember who left this comment and who asked these great questions, but thank you so much for your comment and for asking these questions. It was really fun to think about what advice would I give my younger self. And again, thank you to all of you for your lovely, thoughtful comments and engagement. I really appreciate every single one of you. And I would love to know, what advice would you give your younger self? Really, regarding anything you want to share down below. Any questions or comments, of course, please share them down below. Always love to hear from you. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, bye.